Welcome to the Orange Belt program. This is the Orange Belt level of the Pharos Digital Dojo. And at this level, I call you the skeptical seeker. And I will get into that. But basically, we are on the journey from overwhelmed observer, our white belt, all the way to empowered advocate, our double black belt. And I've created this program with intention so that you are taking small steps, mastering them over and over, and then taking the next step. So a skeptical seeker, you're probably still thinking to yourself, using AI, ChatGPT still feels like hype. So I want to share three objectives, three paths, but with insight. Success with ChatGPT, AI in general, is a matter of clear use case definition. The wonderful thing about AI and the worst thing about AI is you can accomplish a lot without actually accomplishing anything. So if you do not have a clear use case, you will not succeed. You can waste a lot of time and energy. So I encourage people to be really clear on what you're going to use it for and why. And the whole point of the Orange Belt is you're going to get clear and you're going to come up with a use case that you can use to prove the worth. Under clarity, this is where we start to identify where hype ends and actual practical value begins. The white belt and the yellow belt, we're teaching you foundational skills. And I'm going to be honest, there's a lot of theory there, not yet fully practical. Once we get into the orange belt, we're starting to add the practical use cases. And my goal for you here in your personal growth is to develop that critical lens to filter out unnecessary noise. And at this point, I'm hoping the question in your mind or the statement you have in your mind is, I need to know why this matters to my bottom line, not just what's possible. And for the record, this particular path, we are focused on leadership. So my assumption is you are either a owner, manager, leader of a business, or you have a team that you're managing, or you're an individual and you want to manage yourself. And either way, I'm going to assume that your goal is to either increase revenue, decrease expenses, or something along those lines. Now, this could also be used to increase the impact you have in the world, but this is a course on how to master ChatGPT in business. So enhanced profitability is assumed. Again, I like impact. I love to help people. I want to help people work less. But at the end of the day, you've still got to earn enough to. So it's not about eliminating work for the sake of eliminating work. It's about eliminating noise. So in the orange belt, this is where we move from I can save 30 minutes on this task, which is good, but it's more of a novelty, to I know where the true value of AI is in my entire industry. So this is where we're starting to look deep, starting to be very skeptical. We're starting to be very practical. And for what it's worth, this is the theory of the orange belt. We will focus on a lot of practical applications. I'll share some things that I use, some techniques and so on. But at the end of the day, this is where we need to justify the time we're spending on AI. And this is where we need to prove to ourselves it's not just a novelty, it's actually a tool that can help us in our business. And as with any other belt level, you can stay at this belt level as long as you want, or you can advance as quickly as you want. It is entirely your journey, so do what feels right to you. But here's the kicker. Do not go beyond the orange belt until you can confidently say, this is something I need to master in my business. If you're dabbling now and you're happy dabbling, that's great. But if you want to master it, that's when we start to move forward. So this is sort of the deciding line. Is AI for me or not? And for the record, I'm okay if it's not for you. Just don't try to convince me it doesn't work for me, because I know with 100% certainty it does. So our core objectives here, we are going to prove that success with AI is a matter of having clearly defined use cases. So it's all about clarity and the definitions. Next, we're going to identify where the hype ends and practical value begins, and we're going to build that critical lens to filter out noise. As with all of our other belt levels, we have our 5 badges. So in this case, we're talking about the mindset badge, and you can pause this. You can read the words on the screen if you want. But here again, we are building the foundational beliefs and awareness that we need. So the core focus, the belief I want you to understand or adopt or believe is truly success with AI is a matter of clear use case definition. If you're not clear on what you're using it for or why you're using it, you're going to get really random results. If you're clear, you will get clear results. So in the mindset badge, we have our insight, clarity, and growth. And this is where we want to realize that prompting can be, should be, is a diagnostic tool. The quality of how you communicate with ChatGPT, your prompt-based questions, reveals both the maturity of your existing business processes and where the clearest leverage exists. Now, what I mean by that is this is where we start to get into that iron sharpens iron, and we need to be open to knowing what we know and what we don't know. This is where we are going to be a little bit vulnerable. We're going to expose the cracks in our system, the flaws, whatever. And the goal is we're exposing them and we're exploring them so that we can fix them. So this is where we start to get really clear on what's working well in our business. And this level is a little uncomfortable for people because you actually need to understand that the goal is not to nitpick and find flaws just to find flaws. The goal is that we're going to find things that we can improve, optimize, and so on. So for clarity, we want that hype filter. And this is where I want you to understand the difference between hype and reality. So we're going to look at the top 3 use cases I hear about, you hear about, we hear about, that sound impressive but have absolutely zero practical value for your business. And I want you to explain why. The point of this is that we need to understand good AI from bad. So as an example, there's a lot of noise right now today about video creation and how you can create content from videos and blah, blah, blah. Great, cool. That might be a project for you as a hobby. It might be something useful for your business, but don't do it because everybody else is doing it. Do it because it impacts your business. More importantly, if it doesn't help you, maybe there's too much going on, maybe it's too high risk, then don't do it. So this is where we're learning. If you say yes to one thing, you're saying no to other things. So we're going to be clear on what we say yes to. And we're going to get into, this is going to sound cynical, but we're getting into what I call the skeptic's manifesto. And here you're going to write a simple 1-paragraph statement on your current core belief about AI. Here we're going to specifically address and tackle the fear that it still feels like hype. And for the record, I am not immune to this. I still see some things that I know are hype, and that's good. I avoid them. But when I first looked at using ChatGPT, I saw all of the garbage being spewed all over the internet. And I went, wow, AI produces garbage. And so personally, I didn't dive into the AI pool when I first discovered it because I thought it was literally a bunch of garbage. Now I recognize the difference between good and bad. I see that the garbage was being perpetuated by people who didn't actually understand AI, let alone business, let alone people, so on. So we're looking for our unique contribution. We're going to carry forward the work from the yellow belt, and we're going to find ways to improve our lives and our business with practical ChatGPT applications. The second thing we have is our skill set badge. And again, this is where we get into the actual tools and techniques. So here, our core focus is to identify where the hype ends and practical value begins. I stress that over and over because there's a lot of hype. There's hype, say, buy my prompt, do this, do that. The reality is, and I say this sincerely, if somebody says one size fits all, this will solve all your problems, all you need is my one thing, run like hell. They're lying to you because they want your money. I will tell you this over and over and over. I'm teaching you the general skills you need to create specific skills for your business. So think of what I'm teaching you and what we do in the Digital Dojo as the foundation. You still need to take that foundation and tailor it to your business. So what we do in our weekly call, we're going to come up with use cases. We're going to test them. And I really, really say this sincerely. I want you to be skeptical of even the stuff I teach you. So I am not saying I'm your guru. I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm here to show you what's possible and then guide you. If you believe that that is a good use case, here's how we implement it for you. So I believe true mastery is the ability to take something abstract, such as business challenges, and turn it into something concrete through, for example, ChatGPT prompts. And really, this requires that we shift from very tactical, simple task lists to highly strategic process mapping. So this is one of my favorite use cases. We talked about it in the yellow belt. We probably touched on it in the white. We touched on it in the intro. ChatGPT is amazing at recognizing patterns, and it's really good at creating detailed systems for a business. So for clarity, we are going to find and build a use case audit. And generally speaking, in business, there are four core pillars. That includes marketing, sales, operations, and finance, HR. Now, I've seen this broken out as many as 8. I want to be simple. We're going to focus on 4. You will have more use cases, but really, truly, what I would encourage you is to have a little bit of exploration into each of these 4 core areas and see the results, prove the results. Then you can start looking to others. So that is the 4 pillars. And basically, one of the things we like to do, and what we're going to require you to do or encourage you to do for your orange belt, is you're going to brainstorm and document a list of 10 potential ChatGPT use cases outside of the one that you already solved in the yellow belt. Now, in the yellow belt, we talked about one task, and that was very, very specific, very focused. Here, you're going to start looking at what are some potential areas we can use ChatGPT in. And the idea is simple, and I want you to understand we're creating a list of 10. We're going to focus on one at a time. Now, if you've got a team, great. Give each person on your team one thing to focus on. But the idea is, and I believe business is ultimately an experiment. It's the world's greatest experiment, in my opinion. We want to change one variable at a time so that we can measure the results. If you change 10 things instantly and the world changes totally drastically, you'll never know which one of those 10 things caused the big change. So I like one thing at a time. And really, truly, it's better to optimize one thing, get it done really well, prove the return on investment, and then reinvest in the next thing and the next thing. So at the orange belt level, one could argue, great, I got my list of 10 things. I've fixed one. I'm ready to move on to green, to the next belt level. Honestly, take your time and stay here, because maybe there's a reason for you to look at this list of 10. And rather than just saying, okay, I did it once and I'm good, if you get some repetition in, you do 2 or 3, you're going to be more confident in your foundation moving forward. So I am probably one of the strangest mentors you're ever going to encounter. I know full well that you will have more value, you will pay more to be at the higher levels. I want you to stay at this level until you are completely 100% confident that you have a solid foundation. So we're not rushing anyone through belts. We care about mastery, not speed. And now in growth, we're looking at comparative tests. And I'm a big fan of controlled A/B split testing, where you're going to have one or two variables. In this case, we're going to look at 2 of the top 10 use cases, and we're going to run controlled tests by drafting prompts and comparing the output quality, speed, and time saved against our original human-only solution. So let's say, for example, you have a use case of creating social media content, and your human-only team takes 10 hours a week to create content. Maybe it's writing blog posts, LinkedIn posts, whatever it is. We're going to look at that as our benchmark, and we're going to say, okay, if we take our human and we use ChatGPT well, are we saving anything off of that original 10 hours a week? And by the way, if the answer is no, maybe that process is optimized, or it means we can look at it from a different angle and find a better way to optimize. So that is the skill set badge. We're actually now practically looking at our use cases, and we're starting to optimize our business. And again, start slow. I do say 2 of the 10 use cases. Honestly, do 1, get some confidence, and then the second one. So I see it as a sequence rather than as a all at once. And again, the goal is to identify areas for improvement. Now, gear set, this is where we're getting into systems and flow. And I want to spend a little bit of time here. This is where we develop a repeatable method for exploration and value assessment. So this is, I think, the sweet spot. This is the pause before we take action. And believe it or not, I teach this, I do this myself. I have a method for how I think, for how I test, for how I move forward. So the key is we're looking at a method for how we will explore and assess value. Now, the key is I will teach you the theory of it, and then I will teach you in our weekly meetings how to actually adapt that theory to your reality. So here's the thing. If we put 100 entrepreneurs in the room and say, here's one size fits all approach, it's going to work for 20% of you. It's going to fail 20% of you, and 60% of you will sit in the middle at average and go, it's not big, it's not bad, it's not good, it's not terrible. It's meh at best. So if you learn how to adapt it to you, the frameworks become your highest leverage point, and you'll get really excited. So the goal is better results. So with Insight, we want to create a structured exploration system. So you're not randomly just seeking, you're not playing hide and seek, you're actually looking at searching and finding. And again, random exploration, I did this myself. I spent the better part of 3 years exploring and finding all kinds of wonderful hidden gems and secrets. Honestly, sometimes it was like, how did I get here? Can I get back here if I need to? So I'm going to show you some ways I organize my research, how I optimize and things like that. Spoiler alert, it does involve taking notes using Google Docs. It does involve creating things using Google Sheets. I work well with structure. The key is build the structure that works well for you. Do not try to fit my structure. Do not try to fit my structure into your business. Find how my structure can be adapted to your natural rhythms and your working style. So if we have organized research, the way I approach things, I have a database in my head and obviously in my computer of what I've learned in the past. And so I'm now stacking research on top of new research on top of old research so that I can move forward with confidence. So as I do that, I'm not learning 100 new things. I'm not, I think we talked about this in the yellow belt. There's a Bruce Lee quote who basically he says, I don't fear the man who has practiced 4,000 techniques once. I fear the man who's practiced one technique 4,000 times. We are about practical, repeatable things we can do to keep creating leverage. And the beautiful thing about leverage is it compounds, good or bad. So if you have positive leverage, it'll compound and you stack wins upon wins, and you actually end up developing more of a win over time. Whereas if you're stagnating and you're not winning, you can also stack losses and it takes you down further and further from where you want to be. So our goal is to find and stack wins. And by the way, I love momentum, so that's the other goal. Now for clarity, we have the value matrix. And this is really, really simple. This is based on, depending on your origins, you can call it the Eisenhower matrix or the Covey matrix. The idea behind both was we have items that are important and urgent, or not important, not urgent. There's a 2x2 matrix based on importance and urgency. Here we're going to look at things that are high value, low effort versus things that are low value, high effort. So believe it or not, when people come to me and say, Jeff, I'm burnt out, I'm tired, I'm exhausted, 9 times out of 10, they're spending way too much energy doing low value, high effort work. It's exhausting. We want to use the Pareto principle, and we're going to use ChatGPT to find the high value, low effort. That's where your quick wins are. Now, for the record, we can't and should not ignore high value, high effort, but for now, we need to look at high value, low effort because we're looking for gains and momentum. And by the way, there's also a low value, low effort square in the matrix. And my question is, if it's low value and low effort, why do we even bother? And that's some of the stuff we can eliminate, automate, or delegate. So we've already brainstormed our 10 use cases. And what we're going to do is map those across the next 3 integration points. So we're looking for where's our win. So that's the key, is how do we map this out? And what we're going to do is take the things we've already created, our 10 use cases, and we're going to map them. And what we're looking for is the top 3 that are high value, low effort. And by the way, if you don't have any high value, low effort, let's go back and revisit the use cases, because again, I'm going to say this bluntly, I want you to see results. I need you to see momentum, because that's how you're going to get the confidence to go forward. So if you don't have anything in the high value, low effort, let's try again. This is a good place when you're in the group, you can share and be honest, because this is not about getting something done to say it's done. This is about working on your business and actually finding some high leverage points. And I'm going to encourage you, do what works for you. When I first started, I used a paper journal. Now everything I have is in Google Drive and a Google Doc or a Google Sheet. Have what we're going to call the research repository. And I would encourage you, whether it's on your desktop, whether it's on the server, whether it's in Google Drive, start a separate dedicated digital folder. I would say, and again, if you use Notion, that's another conversation. But start a dedicated folder for the Digital Dojo. I organize mine based on belt level. You can organize yours however it works for you. But start building a knowledge base of the successful use cases and the prompts that helped you get there. And treat it like a journaling exercise. After everything I do, after every experiment I follow the US military guidelines for after action reports. And basically what I'm doing is I'm looking at what worked well, what worked okay, but could work better, and what was terrible and we should have stopped. And basically, we're always looking at that value matrix to see as a whole, what can we eliminate, automate, or delegate? Now, the next badge, this is the community badge, and this is where we're going to talk about collaboration. And one thing I want to share, if you're not comfortable working with others and giving constructive criticism and receiving it, this is your great chance to grow, because really, truly, I swear to God, this is true. We're stronger together. We're smarter together. So in this badge, our core focus is to leverage group wisdom to refine our personal critical lens. Now, again, we're not nitpicking for the sake of nitpicking. We're not fault finding just to find faults. The idea is if we can identify and be clear on a weakness, we have room to improve it. So think about this as feedback, not criticism. And believe it or not, I don't even like the word constructive criticism. There's a little bit of constructive criticism for the people who are out there creating words like constructive criticism. The idea is it's not criticism, it's feedback. And I want you to reframe this as well. Feedback is neither good nor bad. It is what it is, and it is what we do with it. So if we take feedback and we reject it because we don't like the other person's hair, that's really not a good use of our time. What we need to do, and I encourage everyone at our belt levels, you will have this mantra: how does this apply to me? So if someone gives you direct feedback, ask yourself, how does this apply to me? If you're giving someone else feedback, ask yourself, how does this apply to me? And if someone is giving someone else feedback and you're just there as a part of the group, how does this apply to me? The gold is in that sentence, in that question. How does this apply to me? Now, for the record, we've probably talked about this before. We will talk about it again. How does this apply to me? There are completely acceptable answers, one being it doesn't. So I want you to know you have permission to say it doesn't apply to me, and that's it. Now, the key is you've thought about it, you've asked the question, and you've intentionally decided it does not. The reason that matters is that our brains are hardwired to keep us safe. It sounds weird. I won't get into the neuroscience, but really, truly, it is wired to keep us safe. So change equals threat, risk, blah, blah, blah. Our brains are nervous about change. So to save our energy, to save us from ourselves, we tend to ignore things that aren't immediately useful to us. There's all kinds of biases and things like that I won't get into. But the asking of the question, how does this apply to me, takes it from a default where we ignore something and move on to at least we've paused, we've examined it and said, oh, okay, here's how it might apply to me, or here's how it doesn't. Now, the beautiful thing is an entire community can spot a flaw or a bias or a blind spot in any use case faster than you as an individual would. So we are actually truly leveraging the power of groupthink, and we want it to be truly, this is a dojo, iron sharpens iron. We are going to gently and politely spar with one another, because I don't need somebody to say, yeah, you're brilliant, that's great. I need somebody to say, Jeff, have you considered X? So our goal here is, as a group in the dojo, in the safety of our community, we're going to help each other identify flaws or biases before they bite us in the backside. So that is what group feedback is about. This is not about hurting feelings or telling people that they look funny or smell funny or whatever it is. This is about saying, in a business setting and politely, your idea is good. Here's how we make it great. Now, for the record, if someone's idea is terrible, we want to help them identify why it's terrible and how they can fix it. So this is not about smashing somebody's hopes and dreams. It's about helping them find the clearest, shortest, best path through there. Now, working on clarity, we're getting into what we call the peer review challenge. So as a collective, sometimes we'll do it depending on the group sizes. We'll do it in the group. Sometimes we'll break out into partners or small groups. But what we would encourage, and I want to stress this up front, we are here to help. We are here to help each other. We're here to help ourselves. So I want each of you to do an honest assessment and share your 3 most promising use cases from your value matrix with the community. Now, the key here, and as a group, this is where the feedback is valuable. We're looking for things that are low effort, high result. And if we don't have any, as a group, we must hold each other accountable and say, let's go find something low effort, high result. We want momentum. I can't stress that enough. I will say it over and over. We are looking for momentum. And as a group, and if you are the person who is being challenged, this is like a sparring match. You should be listening more than talking. And the ratio is we have 1 mouth, 2 ears. So therefore, you should be listening twice as much as you are talking. And the reason I say that is if you are talking, you are either defending, justifying, or making excuses. And I give your peers permission to call you out on your bullshit. If you are fooling yourself, if you are lying to yourself, we as a group owe it to you to give you a kick in the backside and say, hey, pay attention. But what we're doing as a group, and this is the idea, we have the safety of the dojo, we have the safety of our group. We are looking for potential pitfalls, unseen risks, or unexpected side effects before we actually do it. So think of this as the preparatory work. We're getting ready to solve a problem. We want to first identify what could possibly go wrong with our solution. So this is the peer review challenge. And again, you need to be prepared to give as well as you take. So if you are feeling defensive, take a breath, step aside, and ask yourself, why am I being defensive? Is it because I don't like the way the feedback is coming? Is it because I'm feeling attacked? If you feel attacked, why? Now, for the record, if you are the one giving the feedback and everybody around you always feels attacked, maybe you need to stop and say, am I giving feedback in the right way? Now, for what it's worth, it doesn't hurt. You can ask your sparring partner how they like their feedback. Do they want examples? Do they want it blunt? Do they want a little bit of a backstory first? I am full on the autism spectrum. I like my feedback blunt. And really, truly, I mean blunt, as in it could be, so blunt it could peel skin or peel paint off a wall. I don't like sugarcoating. It actually annoys me. So if you sugarcoat, I will say, just get to the point. Now, I've also learned that not everybody wants that level of feedback because you have to be comfortable in your own skin getting that kind of candid, blunt feedback because it can be a lot at once. Now, next, we're going to talk about the mentor-student reversal. And here, this is where we start to grow. Based on feedback received, you might provide a single specific piece of advice to a new white belt coming in as an overwhelmed observer on how they might avoid wasting time on shiny object syndrome. So this is about community. And the way I see it as a community, The people with more experience owe it to the new people coming in to guide them. And really, truly, the people coming in, they're learning so that someday they can guide others. And we break things down by belt levels so that it's really easy for people to understand, here's where I'm at and here's what I'm working on. Now, our final badge is the attitude badge. And here we are practicing both respect and consistency. So, our core focus here is for each of our Orange Belt graduates to cultivate a rigorous, objective approach to AI adoption. Now, for the record, you might be thinking, Jeff, I just want results. Let's go, let's go, let's go. I have heard people say, I want to stop thinking and start doing. This is one of those cases. One of my favorite quotes attributed to Sun Tzu is, strategy without tactics is the slowest path to victory. Tactics without strategy is the noise before defeat. So this is where we pause, we slow down, and we make sure we've done the repetitions. So we've identified the areas we're going to optimize, we've identified how we're going to do it, and then we're testing. So if you've not learned the scientific approach, the way the scientific community uses experimentation, we'll have separate courses on that because it is that critical. One of the foundations of everything I do with AI is the scientific method. If you want, you can Google scientific method. I think I've lost track. I believe there's 6 or 8 steps. I have a process that I follow, and I follow it so blindly now I don't even stop to think about the steps. But it all starts with a hypothesis. Here's what I believe. And then we've got the background. Here's where we are. And then we design an experiment to test and to measure and to optimize. So this is and should be your dojo mindset. We are going to be intellectually honest with one another and, most importantly, with ourselves. If you are lying to yourself about where you're at, I'm sorry, but I really, truly can't help you. If you do not have a willingness to test, a willingness to fail fast, and to discard low value items without emotional attachment, you're going to struggle. So we're looking for low value ideas that we can say no to so that we can say yes to high value ideas. And that really truly is the core of your attitude badge. You will know when you've reached it, when you're willing to test and you don't have judgment around failure. Now, for the record, I use the word failure because that's a word people understand. Really, truly, to me, failure equals feedback. I think it was Thomas Edison who famously said, I learned 10,000 ways not to invent the light bulb before I actually invented it. That's the mindset we want to cultivate. Failing fast means we tried something and it worked or didn't work. But the next step is we take that feedback, we take the lesson, and we move forward. So we want to basically eliminate the emotional charge that comes from the idea, I tried something and I failed. Oh my God, I'm mortified. Please don't tell anyone. To, hey, I tried something, it didn't work. Here's the lesson I learned, moving on. So this is one of those moments in life. I'm going to invite you, when you get knocked down, help someone else up. Sorry, when you've been knocked down, someone else might help you up. If someone else is knocked down, you want to help them up. And we dust ourselves off and we move forward. And always ask, what did I learn from this? So I personally, I make mistakes all the time. I go down false paths. I try things that don't work, but I'm never attached to any of them. And I don't say, oh, I failed at that, or I don't assign personal value based on what I achieved or didn't achieve. What I look at is, what's the lesson that I will carry forward? And that, to me, is the mindset. If we can foster that curiosity, the willingness to try something we don't know the answer to, the experimentation, then we're going to move forward. Now, I don't want anybody wasting time. So here we're going to have, like you might in investing, what we call the stop loss rule. So if you're trying to solve something, and believe it or not, I've actually had to bake this into a couple of my custom GPTs. It recognizes for me when I'm frustrated and it tells me to take a break. So I want each of you to find a way, your personal way, to establish a personal rule so that you can define when to abandon something if it's not serving you. So back to the scientific method, you have a hypothesis, you design an experiment, and if your results keep coming back negative, 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 maybe that path is a dead end and needs to be culled, or maybe you need to bring it to the group and say, here's what I'm trying to do. I'm getting really frustrated. Help me. So as an example, I tell people in the dojo, if you spend more than 5-10 minutes trying to find something, reach out either to me, to the community. If you can't find it, don't waste energy chasing and looking, because you will get frustrated, you will get annoyed, and you will stop searching. So reach out and say, hey, I need help. And by the way, I tolerate this in the white, yellow, and orange. But once you get into the green belt and higher, if you're struggling in silence and not asking for help, I will personally give you a good little ass kicking and guide you, because the key is we're stronger together, we're smarter together. This is about learning and growing together. So the stop loss rule is just to say, do not spend 8 hours burning your time and energy and attention and money trying to solve something. If you're frustrated, it's for a reason. Usually that means you're trying to solve something that you can't solve, or you shouldn't solve, or that doesn't need to be solved. So sometimes just know when to walk away. And by the way, when I use tools like ChatGPT, Kenny Rogers, the gambler, goes in through my head over and over. Know when to walk away, know when to run. Sometimes you got to know when to hold them, when to fold them. So, sorry, got to quote Kenny Rogers. But if you're burning your energy and you're feeling that frustration rise, stop and ask yourself why. So, just so you don't think I'm preachy and I'm perfect, I do this all the time. If I'm trying to solve something and I get frustrated, I will push harder and harder and harder. And at some point, that pushing becomes counterproductive. So when I find something is frustrating me, and I've tried, for me, my frustration level is about an hour. After an hour, I will step away. I will go do something else. I'll come back and go, why is this frustrating me? Now, usually if I'm frustrated, it means I don't know what a good outcome looks like. So sometimes I have to go back and revisit my hypothesis. Sometimes my experiment wasn't well designed, so I have to go back and redesign the experiment. And sometimes I'm trying to solve something that doesn't need to be solved. And again, if I'm getting frustrated, it almost always means I've accidentally fallen into something that is high effort, low outcome. So I want to make sure, again, we're looking at low effort, high output so that we have that momentum. And by the way, if you're feeling frustrated and you keep feeling frustrated, our brains are wired to protect us. So at some point, your brain will say, this is not worth it. I give up, and you go away. We want to stick with it. We want to make sure we're looking at it. So just be prepared that sometimes the biggest win is deciding to stop fighting. And by the way, we encourage this kind of level of sharing in the group. What frustrated you? What would you like help with? Again, in the lower belts up to orange belt, I will let you be frustrated once in a while. Once you get to the green belt, I really, truly expect you, and I want you to start expecting this. You need to reach out and get help from the group. Growth is the final element of the attitude badge. And this is a guideline, not a rule. So, what I strongly encourage is that you create a daily 10-minute digital dojo ritual, and keep it simple, keep it small just to start. We're building up consistency and we're building up momentum. We've talked earlier in, I think it was the Yellow Belt, we talk about Jeff Olson and John David Mann, the book, The Slight Edge. And what we're doing is we're looking for 1% improvement every day. So before you get really committed and before you dive in, I want you to see what 10 minutes a day can do for you in your business. So again, I call it the digital dojo ritual. It has little to do with the dojo and everything to do with you and your business. So what I want you to do is set aside 10 minutes a day. Personally, I do it first thing, then it's behind me, or you can do it at lunchtime. Have a set thing where something triggers you to say, okay, I'm going to do my daily digital dojo ritual, and aim for 15 consecutive business days. Again, I'm not an ogre. I'm not here to make you work weekends and evenings. My goal is, while you're at work, spend 10 minutes trying to improve your work. And by the way, if you have frustrations in your personal life, use 10 minutes every evening to find solutions to your personal life. AI is very, very flexible, very fluid, very adaptable. It can help solve personal as well as professional challenges. And here, what we're looking for, what we want each of you to demonstrate, is disciplined, ongoing exploration. And I will tell you, it's two things I see where people are either going to fail or give up. First is they have a bunch of losses and they get frustrated and they get tired and they want to give up. The other one, interestingly, is they have a big win and then they're satiated and they don't have the drive or desire to do more. So what I want you to do is, when you've had a big win, that's a good time to reset and pause, and then come back with the discipline tomorrow to try to replicate that big win. So I'm going to encourage you to keep building the momentum on those wins rather than, ooh, I had a big win, yay me, I'm going to take the rest of the month off. That's not the way life works. It's not the way business works. And it's definitely not how we work in the digital dojo. So at this point, I want everyone to reflect. I'm coming back. We should have a process now where we can analyze something critically and say, does this feel like hype? Does it sound realistic? And really, truly, the fastest way to waste your time is to start chasing hype and trying other things. Master one skill first. And by the way, that's why this is the Digital Dojo, and we are focusing only on ChatGPT. I don't have the time or patience to guide you through every single AI use case out there. ChatGPT is one I know well and intimately, and I encourage you to pick one and do the same. Now, you might have a different one other than ChatGPT. For the purposes of our group, focus on ChatGPT and how it can help you incorporate something else. So think of ChatGPT as your sparring partner when the group is not there. And I want you to understand, as you walk away, how to be clear on what a good use case is. So is it something that's repetitive? Is it something that takes time? Is it something you don't like or that bores you? And above all, is it something that generates revenue in your business? Now, I'm equally accepting of something that saves you from spending money, but truly I look at, how do we increase our profitability? That's either growing our revenue or reducing costs. So you should be comfortable now identifying the end of hype and starting to put in practical value. And I truly hope by now you've got that critical lens to filter out noise. So by the time you're ready to graduate, you will know with 100% certainty that using ChatGPT is a benefit to your bottom line in your business. and you're also going to know what's possible. So you're going to know what's possible, and you're going to be able to prove to yourself that what is possible is in fact worth pursuing. So thank you for hanging out with me at the orange belt level. And again, whenever you're ready, no rush. If you are not already a part of the Pharos Digital Dojo, I encourage you to go to our website, check it out, sign up. A lot of these videos are available publicly and on free sites. The content is yours to use and yours to adapt and adopt as you see fit. If you want our guidance and help, that's when you would join the Digital Dojo. Now, if you've watched this and you think, oh my God, there's too much or that's overwhelming, that's probably an indication either you're not ready or you should be at a lower belt level. Thank you, and I will see you in the dojo.